Excited to introduce more formally our speakers. And if I can get my technology to work here, I'm going to bring up their bios because my goodness, you guys are in for a treat. So first, I want to introduce Helen Savage. She currently serves as AARP's lead volunteer for consumer fraud and protection. In this capacity, she works with AARP staff and volunteers on consumer protection advocacy and education. And prior to this, Helen was a member of the staff of AARP and their Public Policy Institute. And she's also worked on state and federal legislation in California and several southern states, including North Carolina. And she currently lives in Cary, North Carolina. Good morning, Helen.
Good morning.
And then I'm also pleased to introduce Suzanne LaFollette-Black. She has been a gerontologist for the past 40 years, and her career has been in the Aging Network and nonprofit nursing home administrator, area agency on aging director, executive director of Moore County Department on Aging, the AARP of Georgia State Director, and North Carolina Associate Director for Advocacy and Community Outreach and Aging Volunteer. She is now retired and they don't want to let her go. I think that's a theme. And so she serves as the lead AARP volunteer with the National DIY DWG Driver Safety AARP Coastal Region Disaster Preparedness for Older Adults Task Force, Memory Partners, Powerful Tools for Caregiver Class Leader, and New Hanover County Master Aging Plan Committee. She is also co-founded the Encore Sentimental Journeys Singers of the Cape Fear for caregivers in the Wilmington area, and she has been passionate to bring that to the Triangle as well. I could go on and on about both of these ladies, but I'm going to turn it over to them so that they can get started. A few housekeeping notes before. We will be sharing the recording and the video along with the resources that Helen and Suzanne mentioned in an email after. It's also, I've uploaded already onto the website, the landing page for this event, some resources. And please put any questions in the chat. We're going to reserve about 10 minutes at the end for that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Suzanne.
Well, as we get these slides ready for you, sorry, we were doing a test before we started and we didn't put it back. So I apologize for that, but here we are. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about fraud, scams, and dementia. And you've heard from our dear friend that she told you about what we're going to be talking about today. And we're very excited about having you on board with us. I do want to do a shout out to my good friend, Rebecca Ainsley in Moore County, who is an ambassador for Dementia Alliance NC. It's good to see that you're here with us today, Rebecca and everybody else. Thank you so much. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be facilitating some information that's going to help you recognize and avoid fraud. And I also want to let you know that Helen is the real expert when it comes to fraud. I am here to assist, and I am the caregiver expert. So we're going to merge our talents together. But we do want to share with you that we are very aware that scammers steal billions of dollars from unsuspecting consumers every year. The impact on victims and their families can be financially and emotionally devastating, especially for older Americans. AARP created the Fraud Watch Network, which you'll hear more about, and we want to be sure that you're in tune with this because it really helps folks provide support and guidance to victims and their families when fraud happens. So today, we're going to help you protect yourself and your loved ones, and this is what we're going to be looking at. We have fraud trends, understanding how much fraud is out there and what it looks like. Also changing the narrative, how we talk about fraud. And that really matters. Words really matter when it comes to that. And then prevention, knowing and practicing prevention strategies to avoid becoming a target. And then we're going to get into some resources, how to access and navigate and share up-to-date tools and resources about fraud, identification and prevention, and where to go if you or someone you love has become a victim. So at this time, we're going to move on to the next slide. And we're going to talk about trends and scams and fraud. So I have a question from you all. If you all could please put in the chat, how many of you have been affected by fraud or a scam? And if you have, what was it? What happened? What kind of fraud or scam did you experience? We would like to know. So please put that in the chat, and that'll be extremely helpful for us to know where you are and where you're coming from and if you've had that experience. So today, we're going to really focus on fraud against consumers with dementia or cognitive decline. And so we wanted to share some stats with you on a national and North Carolina basis to kind of see what's happening when it comes to folks who have dementia or cognitive decline. Today, 1 in 9 persons over the age of 65 have Alzheimer's disease or dementia. 1 out of 4 persons aged 78 and older have Alzheimer's disease or dementia. 2 in 5 persons aged 85 have Alzheimer's disease or dementia. And 1 out of 7 persons with Alzheimer's disease actually live alone. Now in North Carolina, Heather was good enough to get me these stats. And we have over 210,000 folks who have various types of dementia here in North Carolina. And 11.6% of those folks over 65 have Alzheimer's or dementia. And 70% of folks here in North Carolina live with dementia, are cared for at home. And something that I found extremely interesting is that we have certain counties that have a higher percentage of people that have dementia or Alzheimer's. And guess who the highest top 4 counties are? Halifax, Edgecombe, Lenoir, and Cumberland. They're all 14% up to 15% with folks that live with dementia or Alzheimer's. And then other folks going out to the east part of the state, we have Wilson, Wayne, Sampson, Granville are at around 13%. And then Durham is almost at 13% at 12.9. And I thought it was important to kind of give you an idea of who we're working with and who we have that can be affected with scams. So breaking news. I don't know if you all saw this or not, but yesterday on Good Morning America, they talked about the FBI, where they're warning that this scam and fraud is an epidemic in the United States. And they stated that seniors 60 plus years and older have lost over $4.8 billion due to scams and fraud. And interestingly enough, this fraud is by phone and the internet. That's the most prevalent. And then they talked about check, call, and wait. We're going to get into that a little bit more on how we can help you on dealing with that type of thing. So now we're going to get into fraud and the impact as on older adults. So what is this impact of fraud on older adults? Well, right now we've got fraud versus elder financial exploitation. And let's talk about fraud in a broader context. We find that the terms fraud and elder financial exploitation are often used interchangeably. It's important to understand that elder financial exploitation is broadly any form of financial exploitation against older adults. And the perpetrators can be someone the victim trusts, or it could be a stranger. It's known as stranger danger. So let's talk about other things when it comes to other types of elder financial exploitation. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, embezzlement, falsifying records, coerced property transfers, denial of access to assets, things along this line. These are examples of what can happen with financial exploitation. And then on the right side, we look at fraud, impostor scams, romance scams, lottery scams, and scams that result in identity theft. So we know through our consumer outreach work and our own research that most people believe that scams only really happen to older adults. Not true. The reality is that younger adults report losing money to fraud more than older adults. And a reminder that scammers know no bounds and target everyone. But do notice when people are age 70 plus have a loss, the median loss was much higher, especially when it comes into some finances. So you might have heard of grandparent scams, and maybe some of you on this webinar have been affected by this, but this is a real issue. We just want to explain that this is when identity theft can happen, and people get a call from a grandson or a granddaughter that they're in distress. And unfortunately, because of artificial intelligence and some other things, they actually can really get the voice down. It's amazing what scammers can do. And you think, oh my gosh, this person's in trouble. This is my loved one, my grandson, my granddaughter. I need to do something to help. So we want to be sure that you are aware that this does happen. It is in the top 10 in the state of North Carolina. And sometimes it happens more in certain areas than others during different times of the year. But I wanted to be sure that you are aware of grandparent scams. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over on top scams, and Helen's going to share with you about those. Helen?
Okay, so this slide shares information about the financial impact of fraud on people. And I like this slide because it also identifies that there are different federal agencies and different sources that are collecting information about fraud. So it shows these are a little bit dated in numbers. The takeaway from that would be the numbers would be even higher for 2024. But the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is a federal agency that is one of the most important in terms of consumer protection. They work on all types of consumer fraud. And in 2023, the losses that they were collecting data on totaled $10 billion that consumers lost. Now we have something with internet and cybercrime. We have a different federal agency that it has the responsibility for collecting that data, investigating those complaints, and calibrating what the loss is to consumers. And that's the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI. So in terms of where to go if you have a problem that you need to report, it's important to realize that you can report most fraud to the Federal Trade Commission, but if it's internet related, that goes to the FBI. And then the third statistic of $43 billion lost to identity theft was compiled by a research organization looking at how much people are losing to identity fraud. In preparing for this, I came across a little list that I wanted to share with you that is not on the screen about what are we seeing so far as the top scams this year. So far this year, the top scams are employment scams, cryptocurrency scams, celebrity impostor scams, tech support, and card decline scams, credit card decline scams. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is that some of these five types of scams are perennial. You know, we've been seeing that for years. However, the cryptocurrency scams are new. And the card decline scams are very new. So just wanted to highlight for you some of the things that are going on currently, you know, to kind of pique your attention about that, and And maybe you will in the future see some news coverage about enforcement actions or tips on how to protect yourself from those. Um, so imposter scams are one of the most prevalent forms of scams that are going on. And you can see that it can take the place of someone impersonating that they're a government agency, or such as the Social Security Administration, the IRS, Medicare, the U.S. Postal Service. Also, imposter scams show up in terms of businesses. So they can pretend to be Amazon, utility companies, FedEx, UPS, Norton, or Microsoft. So imposter scam is one of the biggest areas where people end up being taken advantage of, because and I'll share my own example. I got a call one night. It was a Thursday night. It was about 7:30, and my phone rings. And this is before I was really attuned to not answering my phone. But I answered my phone, and this gruff voice says, this is the Wake County Sheriff Department, and we have a warrant for your arrest, and we're dispatching a deputy to come arrest you. And I said, well, arrest me for what? And they said, you missed jury duty. So 7:30 at night, they're going to come arrest me for missing jury duty. Well, I know I would never miss jury duty because I would want to serve on a jury. So I decided this was a scam, and I chatted with this person, and he said, we are coming to get you. And I said, okay, I'm turning the light on for you. Sure. They never showed up. It was absolute a scam, but the tactic, and we're going to talk more about tactics in just a minute, but the tactic of calling, getting the person kind of spun up or anxious or worried. This happens in every single one of the venues that are on the screen. So there are lots of scams that go on where somebody says, I'm from the Social Security Administration, and there's a problem with your Social Security, and your payments have been frozen. The imposter scam is somebody pretending to be in a position of authority and distorting information. And our advice to consumers, if this, number one, here's one of my tried and true that I never thought I'd say this. Be careful about answering your phone. Have caller ID on your phone. Have a current contact list that you set up. Don't answer your phone if you don't recognize the number or the name. If it is a valid call, if it is an important call, they will leave a message. So this was very, very hard for me to do. But it is one of the things that you can do to protect yourself from imposter scams is to be careful about, number one, how willingly and quickly you answer your phone, whether you have any of the safeguards set up to notify you of who's calling, and be, don't hesitate to question and to verify the what is going on in the identity of the person through another means. You can contact a government agency directly. You can contact any of the businesses that are saying, oh, there's a problem with your account, or there's a problem with this or that. Please go to the source directly. Do not rely on the word of somebody who has called you or contacted you absolutely out of the blue. So just know that, as I said, they're not going to contact you out of the blue about a problem. And the second point is one that's really important to think about. Do you have a trust, an entity, a person, an organization, an entity that you can contact for guidance or to verify is something a problem or not? one of the things that I'm going to be talking about toward the end of this is what's available through AARP's Fraud Watch Network. Because for many people, Fraud Watch Network, it ends up being that trusted source that people can go to get feedback on, is this legitimate or is this a scam? But rather than getting concerned, take a deep breath. Don't react to the person who's called you out of the blue, but go to a trusted source for information. And the third point is don't make any payments and do not share any sensitive information. And if you get one of those scary phone calls, say, okay, I'm going to check this out on my own, and hang up. Okay. So AARP's Fraud Watch Network has developed some brief and very informative videos on a variety of topics, and we wanted to share just a couple of those with you today. So Suzanne, can you play this one?
Amazon imposters are bombarding consumers with millions of robocalls, texts, and emails hoping to steal their money. Here is what to watch out for. You haven't placed an order, but you get an email or text that looks like it's from Amazon saying your order has been confirmed. You're then directed to click a link or call a number if the information is incorrect. Don't take the bait. You're notified about suspicious charges on your account and steps you need to take to address the issue. But taking these steps always spells trouble, so it's best not to engage or respond. You get a call or text saying a Prime account has been taken out in your name. You're requested to call a number to straighten things out, but that number goes to a scammer who's out to steal your money as well as your personal information. If you think you have an issue, contact Amazon directly. For more tips, go to aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. Amazon imposters are bombarding consumers with millions of robocalls.
Thank you. Okay, so just very, very briefly on sweepstakes and lottery scams. Yes, they still occur. Yes, we do continue to hear about them. A couple of red flags, if you cannot recall entering a sweepstake and somebody calls you to tell you that you have won, it's a scam. Also with sweepstakes and lotteries, another red flag is anybody who says you won a prize, but we need to collect the taxes, we need to collect a fee, we need to have this financial resource from you before we can give you the prize. Red flag, it's a scam. Okay. So we wanted to do just a little quiz, brief quiz with you about sweepstakes. So I wonder how you would answer these conditions or these statements. Which of these indicate a sweepstake scam? The first one, a request to pay a fee, taxes, or customs duties before collecting a prize. The second one, winning a sweepstakes you've never heard of. The third one, being asked to buy gift cards and share the numbers before being given a prize. And the fourth one is all of the above. So what do you all think? And the answer is all of the above. Okay, romance scams. It's amazing how many romance scams are out there. I kind of cringe when I hear of some folks that I know who are very, very, very enthusiastic about dating apps and various sources like that to meet people. Because I know of success stories, and I also know of nightmare conditions. The red flags for romance scams are if the person you're interacting with wants to change the means by which you're communicating with each other. It's a red flag if someone professes love to you very early on. It's a red flag if you're never able to meet the person, to meet in person. And then the real red flag is that this person is asking you for money or to invest with them in some venture. Romance scams are prevalent. They are extreme in terms of the lengths that people will go to. And what I also hear from many family members is that it is very, very hard for family members to convince their loved one who is in the throes of a romance scam that, you know, it's a scam, that it's not the real deal. So we have another little video about romance scams.
Meeting a romantic partner online can be great, but it takes an extra dose of skepticism to stay safe from scammers. Here are some warning signs that a romance scam is underway and the person you are talking to wants more than your love. You meet someone online, and after just a few interactions, they profess strong feelings for you. Proceed with caution, especially if they want to take you off the site where you met and chat only by text or another platform. Here's another red flag. Once they gain your trust, which may take months or even years, they might share a hard luck story and ask you to send money or perhaps a gift card to help pay a bill. Don't send any money or buy gift cards at their request. If you do, they will keep asking for more. Con artists have latched onto gift cards as a convenient form of payment in their scams because they are virtually impossible to trace. For more tips on how to spot romance scams, go to aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
Okay, so I'm going to talk very quickly about identity theft and identity fraud. I feel like we have been talking about preventing identity theft for most of my lifetime. That's an exaggeration, but it has been a topic for discussion for so long. We do have some avenues that you can take to reduce your risk of having your identity stolen. And I'm sure that I'm hoping all of these will sound common to you. And the very most comprehensive thing you can do to reduce your risk of having your identity stolen is to put a freeze on your credit reports. We've got information on how to do that. You can do it easily and quickly. And it used to be you had to pay for that service. You no longer have to pay for it, but do put a freeze on your credit report. It is the most protective thing you can do to keep your identity from being stolen. Also, pay attention to passwords. Have unique passwords. Don't have the same one that you've had for the past 15 years. Change them up, keep them private. Another way to protect your identity is through having online account access, and also make sure that your computer and your internet is an updated system, that you're keeping that current. There are good resources at the federal level for you to use if your identity has been stolen. The go-to place is the Federal Trade Commission. They have a well laid out plan and step-by-step process for what to do when you've had a theft of identity. That is available through identitytheft.gov. That's at the Federal Trade Commission. And the other thing that we really urge consumers to do is to check their credit reports once a year. You are entitled to a copy of your credit report for free once a year. You are entitled to be able to check it, and you're looking for anything that is in your report that is that you did not set up yourself. So please check your credit report annually, and you're looking for accounts that the credit report says you have that that you did not set up yourself. And this next slide, this is one of the hot topics that I'm on the bandwagon about this, and it's gift cards. And I would say on one of the hard and fast rules is a gift card is never, ever, ever a valid way to solve a problem. It's a valid way to give a gift to somebody, but it is not a valid way to pay a bill, to pay a fine, to pay your taxes, to resolve a problem. I'm absolutely astounded with the legitimacy that some consumers give to to somebody says, okay, you can solve this problem by going out and getting gift cards. Okay, gift cards, never a solution. Okay, and now Suzanne has her own experience to share.
Thanks, Helen. So this is my husband, Jim. And once a week, we'd go out and have dinner. And this is when I was living in Wilmington. So I was away from the house for a week, and I'd come home on Fridays. And so we were sitting at dinner, and some of you might recognize that restaurant, one of his favorites. And he looked at me and he said, I think I did something wrong. And I said, what do you mean, honey? He says, I just don't feel right about something that just happened on Monday. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, I was playing solitaire on the computer like I always do every day. And then all of a sudden this pop-up came up and it said, you have a virus, urgent. You have to take care of this. And he said, it really scared me. And so all of a sudden I started getting this message that my Microsoft was going off, that this wasn't right, this wasn't wrong. And so he said, I went ahead and gave them my phone number. They asked for my phone number and I gave it to them, and they called me and they told me what I needed to do to get it fixed, but they had to get paid first. And so he said, they told him to go down to Walgreens, of all places, and to get $4,000 worth of vanilla gift cards that Helen was talking about earlier. And what really got me was I thought, why did Walgreens not suspect something? That here comes this gentleman, picking up $4,000 worth of gift cards here. It makes sense to me why they didn't even, say something. But he really panicked, and they really emotionally got to him. And this was a precursor to me. It was the first indication that I knew that my husband has some kind of dementia or cognitive decline. And in a way, it was a good thing in a way. In another way, it wasn't. But thanks to Helen at dinner that night, I literally picked up the phone. Well, he's sitting across from me. You see him there. And I said, I'm calling Helen because Helen's going to tell me what I need to do. And so she told me about the Attorney General's Victim Assistance Program and, of course, the Fraud Watch Network I knew about, but also to make sure that we called Consumer Protection and all the credit cards to make sure they were frozen. So I'm very indebted to Helen, and so is Jim, and we thank you for that. So we're going to move on here, and we'll talk about why people are vulnerable, what makes them vulnerable, and how you can prevent this from happening.
Okay. So these indicators really can apply to any person. We approach this from the standpoint of what's especially relevant for someone with dementia. But what makes people vulnerable? Memory loss makes people vulnerable. Scammers exploit this because they know the statistics that Suzanne shared at the beginning of this. They know the greatly increased incidence of dementia or cognitive impairment as people age, and they exploit that. They are hoping that victims will forget, or they will be aware that they're even being scammed. Impaired decision making makes people vulnerable. Isolation also makes people vulnerable because and scammers know this too, that some people will engage with them because they're lonely. They want somebody to talk to. They appreciate somebody paying attention to them. And people having a very trusting nature, knowing that if scammers are specifically looking for someone with cognitive impairment, they are looking for someone who is going to be accepting of the story that they are sharing. Okay. So this, just very briefly, the scams that are most relevant for people with dementia are impersonation, as we already talked about, tech support, as Suzanne's example showed, fake sweepstakes, cell phone scams. And by that, we mean some of the texts that you get on a cell phone, charity scams, and romance scams. So a little bit different from, there was no cryptocurrency on that list. And, so a little bit of difference there. Okay. So why, I think it sounds so ludicrous to say, okay, you have this problem, you can make it go away by buying gift cards. However, this is the preferred method of payment for many scammers because it's untraceable. I've talked to so many consumers who even said that their scammer stayed on the phone with them while they went to the store, bought the gift cards, and then had them take a picture of the numbers on the gift card, and the code that's on it. Gift cards can be very readily converted into cash or to Bitcoin. And because they're sold in increments, as if you were giving a gift card to your family member or your grandchild, allows them to move around large amounts of money in small parcels. Okay. So I want to take just quickly signs that there's a financial scam going on. So unusual bank activity, such as late or missed payments, changes in spending habits, unexplained changes, such as valuables in the household that are missing, sudden new friends who are hanging around, or maybe friends changing the names on legal documents with different friends from a family member or a trusted longtime friend. Shifts in behavior, such as becoming very secretive about money or paranoid or confused. And the one that I think many people can really identify is where people are receiving just so much mail and piles of unopened mail, overdue notices, trouble keeping up with everyday expenses. So I want to talk just really quickly about, Suzanne, can you advance one more slide? Yeah, thanks. About the mindset of the scammer. And it is all psychological, and it doesn't matter what scam we're talking about. Scammers want to tap into your emotions, and they want you to stop thinking critically. So the scam can either be fear, your Social Security account's being frozen, or it can be excitement. You've won the sweepstakes, you've won $1 million in a brand new car. It can be romance. But the bottom line is, when people are either excited or afraid, they are not able to think with the same critical thinking that they would under normal conditions. That's why scammers are energetic. They're very active and activated, and there is a whole psychology around it. The very best thing that consumers can do to reduce this risk, if they are engaged in a conversation and they think that maybe it is a scam and they're not sure, take a deep breath. Maybe you just hang up, or maybe you tell the scammer, I do not make any decisions. on such short notice. So I have to think about this, but scammers are hoping that you will get so emotionally involved in what they're saying that you will abandon your critical thinking skills. So that's one of the best prevention things you can do is take your time. Don't feel compelled to respond immediately. Okay, I am very aware of the clock, but I do want to just touch on a couple of things. I'm not gonna go through this slide because you'll have it in your deck, but there are a couple of different approaches under safeguarding someone with dementia from financial fraud. And I wanted to specifically respond to a question that someone submitted in advance to Heather for use in this. And that was a question about what can you do to stop the junk mail? What can you do to stop the offers for credit cards? What can you do to help shut down these junk emails or scam emails? And so in the packet that will be available to you, there are some avenues you can go to that are not nearly as well known as some of the other strategies that are available for consumer fraud. There is a way that you can stop unwanted credit card offers by registering at optoutprescreen.com. And I can provide Heather with the website and the telephone number for that. But I just want you to know that there are steps you can take. Similarly, with mail, we had a specific question about how to stop all this mail. Well, there are mail suppression services that you can sign up for. There's a little fee for doing that. I think it's $6 for 10 years. It's something that you sign up for. It's offered through the Association of National Advertisers. It is called DMA, and that stands for Direct Marketing Association, dmachoice.org. And there are specific steps that you can take to let marketers know of your wishes to not have the junk mail, to not have some of the other mail that many people with dementia find confusing, distracting. They'd really like to, not have so much going on that diverts their attention. What you can do to reduce your risk. Let's see. Oh, some of this is we've talked about keep your okay. I guess we're moving on. And we're at resources. Suzanne.
So I'm going to turn this back over to Helen to talk about the Fraud Watch Network. Helen?
Okay. I'll be very brief. I hope that you will write down this phone number and this website address, because this is one of the most comprehensive services that AARP offers. Fraud Watch Network has a way that you can get your questions asked. They have all kinds of resource materials that describe the various scams that are going on. They have podcasts that are informative and entertaining. They have a way that you can file a complaint and it will be shared with the appropriate law enforcement agency. And it is just such a robust and deep commitment of attention and resources by AARP. The website is aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Or you can call their toll-free number, 877-908-3360. You don't have to be a member of AARP. You don't have to be 50 and above or 60 and above. It is open to anybody who has a need for that information. And there's more, Suzanne.
So another program from Fraud Watch Network is really fantastic. It's free. You get these virtual sessions. Any age can do it. You don't have to be an AARP member. Just go to aarp.org/fraud support. And it's called REST. And it's in partnership with Volunteers of America. So it's about resilience, strength, and time. And it really kind of provides like a support group. It's really outstanding and there's no cost. We also have another tool that you can use that's called your questions answered tool. And if you go to answers.aarp.org, this is specifically for fraud. So you can enter your question and you will get an answer in 2 or 3 days. So it's really great. Also in North Carolina, there are some places you can go to get help when it comes to fraud. So if you have some Medicare fraud, you've got the Senior Medicare Patrol. The numbers there, you'll be able to see it on the website at 1-855-408-1212. And then also through Department of Insurance, they have the Senior Health Insurance Information Program. And again, it's the same number, but they get option 2. And then our own Attorney General, Jeff Jackson, has a great consumer protection program with victims assistance, and that's 919-716-6400. And also, if you want to, we've already gone over this. This is just going over it again about identity theft. I'm going to keep going. We also have caregiver resources for you through AARP toll-free number where you can call a geriatric case manager. If you're doing long distance caregiving, they can help you with that and provide you with the services and programs that you need. Also learn.aarp.org are videos and workshops that you can take free. Something I wanted to mention is something called Staying Sharp program, which is about brain health. And you can actually have a cognitive or memory assessment done, and it's free, but there's also games, things that are protected, also how music's so important when it comes to your brain health. And then through the state, Air Agencies on Aging, there's something called North Carolina Digital Navigators, and they have folks there that can help you. So if you have fraud, they can help you, or if somebody needs help with their computers, it's free service. And we have a list that we're going to be giving you. It'll be up on the website that you can contact in your area. The other program I want to mention is North Carolina 211, and you can call 211 on your phone, and they have all kinds of services and programs in referral to help you when you need help. Also, caregiver book references. There's a checklist for family caregivers, a guide to making it manageable, also a checklist for my family. It's so important to have your documents in order with financial plans, final wishes, and history. And then, so in conclusion, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. And we're very excited about that. And we're going to go to questions. Heather, do you have any questions?
I do. I mean, I know I just learned so much and all these great resources. So thank you so much, Suzanne and Helen, for doing that. And, a lot of the questions that came in are, how do I keep my loved one living with dementia safe? If they're not able, if they're experiencing brain change and not able to spot the scam, and how do we, also keep them safe as their care partners without being over monitoring. And I was talking to some of our dementia navigators about this, and it is about finding that balance, but also, ensuring that you are staying informed and ensuring that access preserves their dignity, but also the balance of making sure that they're safe. So one question that I wrote down, and if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will answer a few, is, would you guys suggest freezing the credit of your loved one living with dementia?
Absolutely.
Is that something that we can do to
freeze your credit, even people without dementia. Freeze your credit is the most comprehensive thing you can do to protect your identity from being stolen. And yes, it is important to do that.
Great. I love that, because that just was like, oh, that's such like a tangible thing that we could do. Another question that we got was, how can we help people living with dementia recognize that something is a scam or even AI generated? And that's kind of difficult, Helen. So you had some good thoughts about that as we were chatting prior to jumping on the call, and I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah. I am becoming more and more interested in families or people with dementia concentrating on having a trusted contact that they can go to say, is this legit? People certainly can go to Fraud Watch Network and ask questions and get help. But I think that to get to discuss this to the point where people don't automatically assume that the scammer is being honest with them, that they have some innate skepticism about what they're being told, and to check it out. Don't just accept it at face value, but look for trusted sources that you can go to check legitimacy.
Yeah, and so sometimes I think, that may not be the primary care partner for that person
Yeah.
living with dementia. And so that might be a way that, you can use people in your village and your network to say, you know what? John knows a lot about this. Let's contact him first and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
The other thing that we had talked about amongst our staff with regards to this is, for caregivers to simplify their loved one's technology, specifically as it relates to technology. So how can we, make sure we have a virus monitor on our computers? How can we make sure that we're removing unnecessary apps or folders, and really simplifying so that we're not taking away the control of that person to be able to interact with their technology, but that we're making sure that we're monitoring it just like you would as a parent without being a helicopter parent. I think that's, a good distinction to make. And then also making sure that we're having the conversation about safety rather than just restrictions. And so I think, even we know that people are more susceptible to scams and fraud as they're living with dementia, but that anybody can have it. And so saying like, this is something I'm doing, let's do this together, and really taking that mentality differently. And then making sure that we're supporting their autonomy where we can. We want to always focus on what their person can continue to do, and whether that's playing solitaire, and that's something that's good for that person, but making sure that they're able to do it in a safe way and that we're setting their technology up for success. So, are there any other questions in the chat that you all have? Give a moment. Awesome. Suzanne, could you talk a little bit about what we're hoping to cover in the part 2 of this?
Sure, I'm happy to. We're going to be working with an attorney by the name of Dave Kirkman, and he's written a book on elder wars, and it's about people that have been victimized who are older with scams and fraud. He's awesome, and so we're really looking forward to having this part 2 to help you with legal implications and what's going on, to help empower you. And that will be probably in May, sometime in the latter part of May. So stay tuned. Heather will get that information out to you all if you're interested in part 2. We also want to make sure that you keep in touch with us at AARP. And if you have any other questions, or if you need any help, you can always email ncaarp@aarp.org, or call the toll-free number in the state office here in North Carolina at 1-866-389-5650. And I really encourage you to go to the website for the state of North Carolina for AARP. There's always something on fraud. There's all kinds of events that you can find out about that are near you, and you can find out about what the skinny is, as you could say, of what's going on. So, please do that. If you want to contact Helen, who is our expert on fraud, there's her email. There's my email as well. And always look at aarp.org/fraud if you have any other questions. And we thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you both. Have a great day, everyone. I'm gonna hit end.